Which leads me to my first talking point tonight. The name India, is it a master stroke or is the opposition being too clever by half? Does a name make any difference to electoral fortunes? Is this a name without a narrative and is that viable? Has India actually put the BJP on the back foot? Those are questions I will raise. Supriya Srinath is the Congress's national spokesperson, head of its social media and digital teams. Sanju Verma is the BJP's national spokesperson. And Harish Bijur is one of the country's leading brand experts. Join me from Bengaluru. First you, Supriya Srinath, India. Are you trying to be too clever by half, or is this, in your view, a bit of a master stroke? I mean, tomorrow if you lose an election, are we going to say India defeated?
There is never a contest when India is on the field, India ever loses. And which is why India will not lose. You pitch against anybody against India and India always comes out victorious. So your question is hypothetical. Your question I pay no semblance to. India will win. And what is India? You started off your narrative by, you started off your introduction by saying narrative. There is a very serious narrative in this country. That narrative is that Manipur has been burning for over 2 months now. There's a parliament session that's going to begin tomorrow. Will the Prime Minister and his government pretend that Manipur doesn't exist on the map of India? Or is he going to take cognizance? Will the Prime Minister and his government admit that tomatoes are being sold for 300 rupees a kg? Or will he not talk about it at all? The whole idea of this country, of India, is under attack. Who are we fighting for? We are fighting for the Constitution of India. We are fighting for the voice of people of India. We are fighting for the joblessness of our people. We are fighting for every right of an Indian citizen. And which is why our fight is rightly pitched for a fight for India. The reality is that Mr. Modi, his minions, his ministers, his spokesperson and his troll army doesn't understand what to do with it. So they're going to attack us. You attack us with all your might. I don't really care. But please don't stoop down to attacking India, because that's what you're doing.
So
That
is it, so you, so it is, no, so therefore when you've got...
Don't attack India.
No, when you say don't attack India, you're basically saying your alliance is identified with India, is it? Your alliance is identified with India. Is it an acronym, or are you identifying yourself completely with the country called India?
No, I don't understand your question. We represent people, we represent India, so obviously I represent a part of India. We represent the voices of people of India. We represent the voices of the tribals and the Dalits and the marginalized and the oppressed. We represent the voices of women. We represent the voices of youth. We represent the voices of middle class that's reeling under high prices. We represent people from Kutch to the northeast. We represent Manipur. And obviously we represent India, and there is an acronym for it, and it expands into, like you said, Indian National Development Inclusive Alliance, and I don't think anybody should have an issue with that. The point that I'm making is that Mr. Modi has been found floundering. I have never seen the Prime Minister as rattled as he has in the last 24 hours. Even in a government function, he spent 13.5 minutes spewing venom against India's opposition. That's all very good. But the reality is the way Modi's ministers have gone attacking India, the name itself tells you how rattled they are. India is the name of our country. Attack us. Don't take our country down with your venom, with your hatred, with your bigotry.
Okay.
Stop doing that. You
Rajdeep.
India and Skill India, Startup India, Digital India, 1 second Khelo India. Why was there no issue raised there? Were you not representing the country? Were you not talking about India when you said New India, and suddenly you have a problem with India as a name?
This
Stop
is not
that. It's
fair.
Shamelessness. It's brazen shamelessness on your part. It makes you anti-national.
Okay.
You are an anti-national party. Stop attacking India.
You know, you're an anti-national. It's interesting. It's interesting how you're trying to put the boot on the other foot, because the BJP has often called its opponents anti-national. But Sanju Verma, is the Prime Minister rattled?
Rajdeep, I just humbly want half the time
No,
that
please
the
let
Congress
us, please let her
got.
complete now, Supriya. Yeah, go ahead. Sanju.
Rajdeep, I did not heckle this lady even once. Not once did I heckle her, and I expect the same courtesy.
Sure.
Which is a bit rich coming from her, but still nonetheless. Rajdeep, I want to say things on a lighter note. Just before coming on your debate, I went to your Twitter handle. And I was not surprised. You have 8.9 million followers on Twitter. I think the largest that any Indian journalist has. You have people who love you and people who hate you. And I'm not saying this by taking any digs at you. But if tomorrow I change Rajdeep Sardesai's name to Gaurav Sardesai or Rahul Sardesai or Arun Sardesai, will the core DNA of Rajdeep Sardesai change? Yes or no? The answer is no. Or for that matter, Sanju Verma. You change Sanju Verma to Sangeeta Verma or Sanjukta Verma or Suhana Verma. The core DNA of Sanju Verma will not change. Or for that matter, Supriya Srinath को आप Kupriya Srinath या Shri Priya Srinath बनाओ, her core DNA will not change. So changing names, saying we represent India because the name of our alliance is that, is a very juvenile and puerile argument. Point number one. Point number two. राजनीति में राजदीप एक कहावत है, जो जीता वही सिकंदर. And anyone who denies this is the proverbial ostrich living in La La Land. And these are numbers that I've taken when you were on your show with your colleague Preeti Chaudhary a couple of hours back. What is the current status of the BJP-led NDA in Lok Sabha? 331 seats, the other side 140. What is the strength of the BJP-led NDA in Rajya Sabha? 134, the other side 93. Now, I have this to say. In any alliance, Rajdeep, the pivot or the fulcrum is very important because that is going to decide how the alliance will pan out. Now, BJP standalone in 2019 got 303. The Congress, which is supposedly the largest party and the pivot on the other side, got 52 seats. 303 versus 52. We are almost 5.83 times larger than the largest party on the other side. This is my other point. So there is no comparison. As far as numbers go,
your final point,
beat the BJP.
Your final
please.
point.
Rajdeep, let me, give me at least 1 minute more. I heard Supriya's speech for 10 minutes. She did not make any sense. Now speaking of democracy khatre mein hai. Democracy khatre mein hai is a party who is giving us bhashan on democracy. A party like the Congress, forget about Indira Gandhi who imposed 21 months emergency in 1975, where more than 1 million people were forcibly arrested without a warrant and 10 million were forcibly sterilized. I'm giving you some numbers from the Parliament Library archives, which I got before your debate. Jawaharlal Nehru imposed Article 356 7 times, Rajiv Gandhi 6 times, Narasimha Rao 11 times, Manmohan Singh 10 times, Indira Gandhi 48 times. So in the period that the Congress ruled, Article 356 was used 83 times. And I've got the comparison for Narendra Modi and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. In his tenure, Atal Bihari Vajpayee imposed President's Rule 5 times, Narendra Modi 4 times, so total 9 times. 83 times Congress has imposed President's Rule, BJP 9 times, और ये कांग्रेस पार्टी की जुर्रत देखो कि हमको डेमोक्रेसी पर भाषण देती है. I will end with one line. I will end with one line. Indulge me.
Yes.
You believe your boss Arun Puri, right? He's your boss, right?
Yes.
I will read out a very interesting 4 lines from Arun Puri, and you should not interrupt me. This is from the February 6th, 2023 edition of your magazine India Today, and this is what Arun Puri writes. He wrote this after your Mood of the Nation poll. He says, Mood of the Nation has reflected the flux of India's polity, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, lot of things have changed. But over the past decade, one fact has stood invariable like a porn star, the persona of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the enormous public credibility it carries. Modi has emerged as a unique helmsman and leader figure of 21st century India, seemingly untouched by storm, undimmed by time, and immune to competition. This is Arun Puri of India Today in the February 2023 edition.
I have
of
allowed
India
you uninterrupted time for 2.5 minutes. Now, do not complain again that you're always intervened. You have been allowed now silence.
Can I please come in?
Yeah, before you come in, I just want Harish Bijuru listening, because Harish Bijur, I'll allow you, Supriya, to respond. Harish Bijur, we are looking at branding here. Politics is a lot, particularly in this age of multimedia, about branding, about marketing. You've got the opposition which has got the acronym India. Do you think it's a master stroke, or are they being too clever by half?
Okay, Radhip, I hope my comments are going to be seen with the neutrality it deserves to be seen with. I'm really speaking branding. And I'm saying that is it a master stroke? Well, it certainly is a stroke. Whether it's a master stroke or not, only time will tell. It is a stroke because a name is what a name does. And if you really look at the way in which India is trending, it tells a story to say that if at worst this coalition has actually created a bit of a hangama with a name. So, in terms of attention, in terms of interest, in terms of the desire to understand what's happening, it's perked that up. But then what's in a name? I mean, going back to Shakespeare, I think there's a plenty for sure, at least in the way and manner in which this has been done with. I think a name is a skin, and I think that skin has been put together very well initially by this coalition of 26 parties. But the body needs to fall into part, the individual body parts need to fall into part, and most importantly, the interstitium, which keeps these body parts together, needs to be knitted together. So, name is one, leadership is another. Possibly, we'll see each one of it being cobbled together slowly.
Okay,
but
so
as a name, I think it's created enough of a hangama.
Okay, so it's a creative name. There has been disruptionist, created a hangama. But the name is a small part. You're going to have to fit in nuts and bolts, Supriya, Srinath. What's in a name? Is this, as I said at the outset, an attempt to create a disruption, to challenge the BJP over their seemingly monopoly over India first? Is that the aim? Was that the real goal, to somehow say, look, you don't have a monopoly over the India name? And I'll tell you why. Because I'm going to play in a moment what the Prime Minister did a few years ago when he was on the campaign trail. Just listen in to Prime Minister Modi when he was at a speech. Okay, we'll come to that in a moment, but Supriya, Srinath, respond.
I have two things to add to this debate, and I add them very fearlessly. I am not going to spoil people's names here. Let's keep this debate dignified. Difficult to expect the BJP to do, but let's try and make an attempt. Not definitely from this spokesperson. But the reality is that the Prime Minister till 2 months back was thumping his chest and saying, ek akela, ek akela, ek akela. उस एक अकेले को 38 की जरूरत पड़ गई. 2 और ऐड कर लीजिए, अली बाबा बन जाइएगा और उनकी टीम बन जाइएगा. That's the reality. The reality is that when the Prime Minister was standing and pleading before the NDA allies, 38 of them who he had collected, 24 of them have 0 MPs. A big 0 MPs. 7 of them have 1 MP each. So the Prime Minister is standing before those allies and invoking Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Advani ji. Very good. You finally remember the stalwarts on whose shoulders you came here, who you have put in mental coma in Margdarshak Mandal. But the reality is that the Prime Minister stands there and says 3 very interesting things. I don't know if you missed them. The first thing he tells them is that in my last 9 years, I may have been busy and you may have not found an appointment with me. I seek an apology. He then says, because of my SPG, sometimes you may have not found a seat which you rightly deserved and you were forced to sit in the crowd. I apologize for this. And then he says, sometimes your name may have not been printed on a card and I apologize for this. These are not signs of somebody who's ek akela sab par bhari. These are signs of a rattled, baffled Prime Minister. The reality, Rajdeep, is that Bharat ko humne joda, Bharat jodo yatra karke और इंडिया को जिताएंगे. असलियत यह है कि जुड़ेगा भारत और जीतेगा इंडिया. उससे इनके होश फाख्ता है.
Okay, जुड़ेगा भारत.
If I am speaking and you are continuously heckling and intervening, जुड़ेगा भारत और जीतेगा इंडिया. और इसी से ये घबराते हैं. इनके पास कोई चारा बचा नहीं है.
Okay, ma'am, you made your point. I have some regard for my age. I find it difficult to deal with. It isn't easy to give you all equal time. Let me try to do that though. That Sanju Verma, there is some truth in saying that the Prime Minister until now has believed he has the mastery on these acronyms: Startup India, Stand Up India, New India, Amrit. He's always looking for something. Now, when he does it, it's okay. When the opposition does it, you seem to have a problem. I'll just play that. No, just listen to what the Prime Minister said at a public gathering and then I want you to respond. Please play what Mr. Modi had said then.
दल के लिए नहीं, देश के लिए वोट करिए. और हम कहना चाहते हैं, वोट फॉर इंडिया. वोट फॉर इंडिया. भाइयों बहनों, मैं बोलता हूं, आप पीछे बोलना वोट फॉर इंडिया, बोलेंगे? आपको बोलना है वोट फॉर इंडिया, बोलेंगे? वंशवाद से मुक्ति के लिए वोट फॉर इंडिया।
You want to respond, Sanju Verma? The India word is not a BJP monopoly.
Okay, I'll respond, Rajdeep. I'm glad you played that out. In fact, I have to tell you, I have a great memory, and most of Prime Minister's speeches, I know them by heart. You know, I will say this, I don't want to get into this puerile debate about India versus Bharat, because I genuinely believe, and I say this as the national spokesperson of the largest political organization globally. Article 1 of the Constitution starts with the phrase, India, that is Bharat. So, I think we look at India and Bharat synonymously. I'm not getting into the semantics and the divisive debate around it. But I will say this. Time and again, the other panelists spoke about Modi ji was pleading with 38 allies. Please come and join us, blah, blah, blah. तो मैं एक बात कहना चाहती हूँ. बड़े बेआबरू होकर तेरे कूचे से हम निकले. बड़े बेआबरू होकर तेरे कूचे से हम निकले. बहुत मेरे अरमान निकले. लेकिन फिर भी कुछ कम निकले. A party that has been abusing the Prime Minister was reduced to 44 seats in 2014, and I'm talking the great Mahashay, मोहब्बत की दुकान के पहरेदार राहुल गांधी, and in 2019 his मोहब्बत की दुकान garnered only 52 seats. So first look at your own backyard. Without numbers you are a big zero, and that is where you will be in 2024. But give me 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds.
I'm counting.
I will tell you why we are super confident. I will tell you why we are super confident. I think the reliability factor in any alliance is very important. Be it the I.K. Gujral government, be it the H.D. Devegowda government, be it the Chandrasekhar government, or for that matter, the fact that Rajiv Gandhi and V.P. Singh had a very public spat and fallout. History is a testimony to the fact that Congress has always left its alliance partners high and dry. And madam, since you talk about Manipur in 15 seconds, Rajdeep, 15 seconds. In Karnataka, in the last 15 days only, Rajdeep, 15 seconds. A minor gang rape, a cop killed by sand mafia, a RTI activist killed in police custody, two RTI booth operators, two toll booth operators, pardon me, shot at point blank range. And the electricity minister involved in a bribe, accepting 10 crore for promotion, 10 crore for transfer.
Producer,
Karnataka law and order has
ma'am, you know, I have to
taken
bring
a
your
floating
voice down
meeting
because the
out
fact,
window.
you see, because you want, you know, the fact is, let's not compare what's happened in Manipur where 130 people have died. We are now getting reports of a possible gang rape that's taken place there. Let's not compare it. Violence is violence of a kind that needs to be condemned. And therefore, you know, the worst thing we can do is engage in this kind of whataboutery over violence. So let's not do that. Let's not normalize violence of any kind. That's the reality, ma'am, on the ground. I just want to bring in Harish Bijur for a final word, because Harish Bijur, if you were advising both these alliances, one is called NDA, one is called India, what's the one piece of advice you would give each as we go up to 2024, probably from a branding perspective?
Well, to the India coalition, I would say that a name alone isn't important. A name is but a skin, put together the body and the rest of it that needs to come by. As far as the BJP and the NDA side of it, I would say at the end of the day, I think it's work that counts. It possibly is very, very important to showcase reality. And I think importantly, this is going to emerge to be a Bharat versus India debate. But naughtily, I would say the Congress and the rest of the parties have actually got the nomenclature right, because, you know, naughtily speaking, India is a unity in diversity. And if you really look at the coalition of 26 parties as well, it looks like a lot of diversity. And if the attempt is to bring unity.
Can I please make a 10-second point?
I will give
10
both of
second
you
point.
20 seconds each. I have a Sitaram Yechuri interview coming up. I will give you 20 seconds each. First, you, Supriya Srinath, is this India versus Bharat? Are you ready for the BJP to make it India versus Bharat? That they are authentic, you are a coalition of diverse interests, but do not have anything common.
No, absolutely not. This is not India versus Bharat. Only somebody who doesn't understand either India or the essence of Bharat will say something like this. But I'm glad that something was said here. It looks like Hemanta Biswa Sarma, your ministers are being berated because they are the ones who are diluting this debate to India versus Bharat. Tell them
But
to
20
shut up and
seconds are
listen
up,
to the
Rajdeep.
Prime Minister who says vote for
But
India.
20 seconds
Also,
are up.
one more thing.
No, no,
Since
please
there
bring
is
down
nothing in a
Sanju's
name,
voice.
why are you changing names of cities like Gurgaon? Why are you changing names of cities like Allahabad and Gurgaon? Why are you changing Rajpath? Since there's nothing in a name, there is nothing in. Why are you changing names of cities in this country? Has anything changed in Prayagraj because its name has been changed, or in Faizabad, or for that matter in Gurgaon or Rajpath? The reality is that you want to hog the limelight when you do things, but you have been stepped, and you have been stepped in your saddles with India. You do not know how to react. And
Okay.
this is your frustration speaking. But guess what? A fight against India is no contest at all. India alone always wins.
Okay.
And history will be repeated one more time.
Okay, I will give 30 seconds to Sanju Verma in the interest of failure. Your time starts now. Are you frustrated?
Rajdeep, I will again start with the kahavat. You know, there is a famous saying, हमें मालूम है जन्नत की हकीकत क्या है, हमें मालूम है जन्नत की हकीकत क्या है, लेकिन दिल को खुश करने के लिए गालिब ये ख्याल अच्छा है. The entire opposition is living in La La Land. They are united by one thing, their visceral hatred for Narendra Modi, and they are divided by one thing also, their
What are the
ministerial
38
ambitions.
people you have collected
ask
together?
them, shut
Do you
up
know
now.
their
I did not
identities?
heckle you. Shut up.
No, 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 don't please.
Goli wali madam, shut up.
No, ma'am, you cannot do this. No, shut up
No,
and all is not
Sharati,
acceptable. This
I
must
did not
stop.
heckle her.
No, you cannot
I
use
did
words
not
like
heckle
shut
her.
up. Sorry. Please apologize
Let me
for that.
complete.
No
Let
one
me
can use
complete.
this word shut up. She's
Let me complete.
listening to you. Supriya's
Okay.
voice down. You have 20
Yes,
seconds left.
thank you.
You have 20
Thank
seconds
you.
left. 20, I'm counting quickly.
Rajdeep, I just have this to say. The road to Delhi comes via Lucknow. BJP got 73 seats in Uttar Pradesh Lok Sabha 2014. From Uttar Pradesh in 2019, out of 80 seats, we got 62. Congress got 2 seats in Lok Sabha 2014 from Uttar Pradesh. 1 seat only in Raebareli from 2019 from Uttar Pradesh. Rahul Gandhi lost his bastion Amethi. Without Uttar Pradesh, you cannot win
Okay,
Delhi.
so you believe you are
Without
giving us the
Uttar Pradesh, you
numbers.
cannot
You believe
win
that,
Delhi.
okay, producer, you believe the numbers go against the Congress, that branding is not enough. The reality is the numbers are against them. Supriya Shrinet believes that the BJP at the moment is rattled and frustrated with the use of the name India. Either way, at least we have an interesting debate over a name. Thank you all very much for joining me on the news today.